Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Fishing Report. We're approaching Memorial Day weekend and it's looking to be a beautiful one. We get started with the water temps out here. Water temps have been a little difficult to gauge lately. We've had such beautiful days, warm, sunny, calm days, that it sometimes makes the water temps look disproportionately high. What I would say the main lake is right now is in the mid 50-degree range. When you go into the bays, it varies a lot more, but I would say in the bays it's averaging somewhere in the upper 50s to lower 60s. So to get started with the walleye bite up in the North End sand continues to be good. I've been hearing good reports, especially in the early mornings in that 14 to 16 foot of water range. Pulling a Lindy rig, a light Lindy rig, long lining it out from the boat and drifting along with a leech or a spot tail shiner is typically the best way of getting fish up on the North End. If you find yourself in calm, bright, sunny conditions and you're just not getting them in that depth, a lot of times it's best to back off and get out into a little bit deeper water, and oftentimes you can find the bite continuing out there. What we've been doing in my boat this season has been doing a lot of casting with plastics. We've been using a lot of 4-inch paddle tail minnows, and they've been working well overall. We encountered a day this last week, Sunday, where it was flat, calm, bright, sunny, warm out. Not your ideal walleye conditions, and we didn't do so well on those paddle tail minnows, so you might have to change things up if you run into those conditions. But before then and since then, we've been catching walleyes on those, and the bite has been good. Just a little 4-inch swim bait with a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce head. Cast it out, let it sink to the bottom in 10, 12 feet of water, and just reel it in slow, bumping bottom and bumping rocks. It's a great way to catch fish. You'll get both walleyes and smallmouth doing that. If you're finding that you're not catching fish doing that in the middle of the day, try it again either early morning or late in the afternoon into the evening. A lot of times you'll find that those fish start picking those up again. Now another classic walleye bite on Mille is just the evening bobber bite, and that continues to be going great this season. A bobber and a leech, find your favorite rock pile. I would say anywhere from 8 to about 24 feet of water. There's a lot of good areas to catch fish out here. I wouldn't be so concerned about depth as I would be trying to find just the right structure on that rock pile. So whether it be the top of the rock pile or a nice rock to gravel transition, especially if you have some wind blowing into it, that's what I'd be looking for more so than an actual depth itself. When you find that and you put your bobber and leech on it, you're pretty much guaranteed to pick up some walleyes in the evening out here. Other walleye bites that are going to continue to get better are going to be the gravel and the mud bites. I've talked to some guys that have been going out there recently. There are fish starting to show up out there, which isn't surprising. There's bugs starting to hatch out on the lake. So those are going to continue to get better and better. If you're going to the gravel bars in the middle of the day, typically what I do is I go to the rock gravel transition. That's oftentimes in about 30 feet of water. That tends to be best during the daytime. If you're going out and you've got some wind or it's the low light periods, just simply going up to the top of the gravel bars, especially if you can find some rock up there, those tend to be the best areas with a little bit of wind or overcast or low light conditions. When going out to the mud, a lot of times what I'm trying to do is find some sort of structure on the mud that's on the edge. So you find the edge of the flats and you go down until you find a point, and that could be a north point or a south point, but any sort of structure on that mud flat itself. Occasionally there will be fish up on top, occasionally there will be fish up out in the basin, but getting on the edge and finding a point on that flat or an inside turn is oftentimes where you're going to find the biggest concentrations of fish. When going out to the gravel and mud, oftentimes the best presentations are just a Lindy rig and a leech or a bobber and a leech. Moving on to the smallmouth bite. The smallmouth bite overall has been excellent out here. I've had a tough day on Sunday. The conditions were tough for me for the smallmouth and the walleyes that day for some reason. But the days leading up to that and the days since then have been excellent. We've put a lot of big fish in the boat. We've had some really, really great action out here. So the smallmouth bite is good. We are entering a period of transition. We're getting to that 60-degree mark in some of the bays, and what you're going to start to notice is fish are going to begin spawning. They're going to be making beds, but that's going to be just getting started in some of the warm water bays. As far as stuff on the main lake, We're probably a few days out, might be past the weekend before that gets into full effect, but we're just at the beginning stages of that transition. We're still gonna have a lot of fish that are pre-spawn out here, so there's a lot of pre-spawn fishing opportunities in the lake, but this weekend you're definitely gonna start to notice some bedding opportunities as well. Now during this transition, the door is kind of wide open as far as what techniques work. We've been catching fish on a variety of them. We've gone into the shallows with chatterbaits and caught smallies on the chatterbaits. We've been fishing them with drop shots. We've been fishing boulders with drop shots. We've been going to some beds here and there when they present themselves. We've also been getting them on the smaller swim baits on rock piles. I mean, it's kind of been a bunch of different things. The jerk baits have worked well at times. So if you're looking to get out smallie fishing and you've got a favorite technique, now is a great time because there's a lot of stuff that's working well. Now with all those techniques working well, there is one that stands out as just being the most consistent recently, and that's once again just the little 4-inch paddle tail swim baits. If you're going for pre-spawn fish, it's an excellent way to catch big pre-spawn smallmouth out here. Go out, find some rocks in about 6 to 12 feet of water, cast those little paddle tail swim baits, let them get close to the bottom. A little 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce head is typically the sizes that you want on these, but cast them out, let them sink to the bottom, reel them in slow, occasionally bump bottom. It's a great way to catch numbers of smallmouth out here, as well as some really big fish too. When trying to locate smallmouth this time of year, there's two things I'm looking for. I'm either looking for big rock structures in about 6 to 12 feet of water, or else I'm looking for rock to sand transitions. Oftentimes I'll find rock to sand transitions in between shoreline and about 50 feet away from shore. You'll notice that a lot of times there'll be sand kind of before the rocks get started, just off the shoreline. So you'll find rock to sand transitions there. You can also find them out deeper. Sometimes those are harder to see with your eyes, but if you use your electronics, a lot of times what you can find is you can find ripples on the bottom on your side imaging. And when you find those ripples, it's not going to be gravel or rock or mud. Those ripples are almost always sand. So just driving along, especially after a windy day, and using your side imaging in that 3 to 12 feet of water is oftentimes going to find you those rock to sand transitions that the smallmouth tend to gravitate towards in this colder water. I hope all of you have a great weekend and good luck fishing.